Hi, guys. Por favor, let me know if you can hear me. Should be fine, but I'd like to make sure. Can you hear me? How are you guys doing? How was the week? I see we have Kevin Johnson was first in the house. Hi, Kevin. From Morristown, Tennessee. George Graham, good to see you. Punta Gorda, Florida. Kathy from North Carolina. Nice to see you, Kathy, again. Matt F. I don't know if we've met. Hello from Virginia. Hello back at you from PA. Thank you, Kathy. Kathy says, y'all can hear me. So you know if you can't, it's on your side, not my side. Okay? For once, right? Mike Patience in the house. Hi, Mike. Good to see you. Hey, Beth is in the house. Hi, Beth. Long time no see. Thank you all. Okay, so where are we at, guys? Any questions? It's been a busy week here as we're getting some new softwares. Oh, Elliot's in the house too. Awesome. Hi, Elliot. New softwares going to make things, you know, even more efficient than they already are. I have like a fetish about it, I suppose. Trying to think if there's anything else going on this week. I was while I was waiting for 1 o'clock and not wanting to get too wrapped up in anything, I got a fax. DDS doesn't normally fax the attorneys. They just love snail mail. Not sure why that is. They ask for our fax numbers, but then they don't seem to use it. And if they do snail mail, it means it's probably going to be 10 days to get here. May or may not get here at all. You guys probably have that same problem. So I don't really understand why they don't use fax more often. But it was funny because what's today, Wednesday? It was either yesterday or probably Monday. I had called the adjudicator because my client said that he got this message. And I always tell my clients, don't pick up the phone, just take the details and give it to me and I will call them. I don't want them calling an adjudicator. I'm sure that most of the time it's innocuous and it's going to be basic, but I have personally seen times where it was little sneaky little questions asked in a sneaky little way to get the answer couched in the way they sought it. And it was very underhanded. So I just don't want any of my clients to be the one that might get that happen to them this month versus a different, So I just say, I'll call them. So in this case, it was about wanting to know about any mental health treatment. The person just applied. I mean, we literally sent the application in a few weeks ago, or I should say we were connected a few weeks ago. And whenever I get new providers, I send them the same day. We send them right away to the adjudicator. And if we get my clients report ideally on a real-time basis, when they get out of an appointment, boom, they have this particular dedicated thread for them to use in our portal to tell us about 4 little pieces of information about the visit. And then we always know, each and every visit, never have to do this big catch up later, I mean, the OHO will want a big catch up. And when you appeal, you have to do a big catch up. And we make them respond to those on our data packets. So we have our backup in case they ever say, well, did they tell you that in the book? But all along, we're always sending them stuff. It's just what we do. Our initial on our recon is not a sit on your button, see if it happens organically or, or not. So I called her and I told her all these questions. And then today I get a fax with the same questions. And please respond by May 9th. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Unless maybe that was like queued to go out before I called her. I don't know how their system runs. I mean, I literally spoke to her a day or two ago. She was very nice. So it was about any new updates and any mental health treatment due to the allegations of poor concentration, anxiety, focus issues, more distractibility, which we tend to do when we're in pain or anxious about our conditions. So I just reiterated, and the way I did it, guys, I just took her letter. I used my little AdWords function and typed, as per our conversation this week, I reiterate the substance down below. And then I put a little arrow for each question that said, see the application and the 3368 info provided, plus all updates from this lawyer. Number 2, please give us contact information for all psychological providers. I told her there was none yet. Told her that on the phone. So I just said, still searching for one. And number 3, ask for contact information for all psychological hospitals. Okay. Person's never been psychologically hospitalized. It's not a person who's disabled due to some severe mental egregious illness. It is the symptoms of, what happens mentally, cognitively, this much when we, deal with chronic pain, or it could be a neurological thing where you're starting to be able to, walk as well, do things like that. And you kind of have to have help and mitigate your activities and any driving you used to do. Like, it's a real big crunch on the quality of life. And a lot of people do, whether they go and get diagnosed or not, probably have difficulties adjusting to the new normal, which is not as nice as the old normal, right? So anyway, and then I took my digital highlighter and highlighted in yellow all the responses so you can't miss it. And I uploaded it to the portal under representative correspondence. Like, I'll get you an answer fast. This is how I'm going to do it, because I like it documented in the file. So I made it clear that we just talked about this on the phone. So if anybody else gets it in the future, it's a little wasteful to do this. It's not like she said, hey, can you send a letter to this effect? Which, by the way, I will if it's something that is going to be case pertinent that I do so. I like to back up with in writing. This stuff wasn't. But anyhow, that was what I was doing before I hopped on with you guys. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna slap a funny little message back with all the answers she asks right on the form. It's not a form, it's a letter that she asked it on. It's so ridiculous that she asked it. Why should we put out another letterhead? Anyway, okay. So do we have questions, guys? And how was everybody's week? Anything exciting going on? Any SSS news I haven't not caught up on because I've been thick in the weeds this week, in a very good way, I might add. I'm just going to scroll down, see if anyone's throwing out some questions. Hi, Elliot. I said that before. Tanya, nice to see Tanya Sims in the house. Dimple, hi, Dimple from Ohio. Deanna's in the house. Hi, Deanna. Papa's in the house. I think I was also, before I did this little letter, catching up on the comments, underneath the videos and stuff like that. So I literally popped from there to this to here all in the same hour. I know the comments responses. I'm almost thinking, if it's not offensive to anybody or totally out of line, if I can just hold myself to a standard of getting them cleared out the morning of the live streams, because I'm kind of like in here anyway and not getting into too deep with anything because of the 1 o'clock. So I'm wondering if everybody can be like, well, if it's 5 days, because sometimes I've seen like 6 days, 8 days, yikes. And I don't want to do that. I like to be a little more timely, but it is really busy. So, and there's a lot of them at times. So I thought, well, maybe that'll be my pre-live stream task, is clearing out and responding to the comments in the, under the videos. All right. Papa says, this is Papa's Place. Hello, Ms. Joy. Wanted to thank you and Jonathan for the guidance. Want an initial, yeah, and fully favorable with onset. Oh, Papa, we were just, all right. So you're the one I responded to a lot of your I mean, you're here a lot, but also you do some great, shares in the comments under videos. And I just responded, and I think you were still waiting. Couldn't have done it without you. SSA called me directly to let me know. That's awesome. Yeah, Jonathan, he's a like-minded individual in many ways with me on the whole Social Security stuff. So that's cool. William S. is in the house. Love what you do from Montana. Hi, William. We might have another Montana in here today. We often do. Michelle M. is in the house. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Stephanie. From your experience, what is the average time for a CE on initial to submit their report to DDS, or is there a deadline? I think if they don't submit it, the DDS is going to get on their case. I have seen a few weeks go by. I haven't really seen more than, say, 3, and that's on the long side. I would say I usually see it within like 1 to 4 or 5 days. But as you know, there are exceptions. So that's probably, if any of you are seeing longer than that, that's probably why. I mean, if you think about it, the person could have done the CE and then gone on vacation for a week. You'd like to think they would have made an effort to make sure that was popped out beforehand. And if you see the quality of some of these CEs, some of them are really good. Even if you don't necessarily agree with their opinion, they are cohesive, comprehensive, and fully explain things. And then some are clearly templates that default to perfect body, perfectly able to focus. I mean, I'll see ones where they'll say, they'll do like, this is a mental, for instance. They'll do like 3 items that you're supposed to, like, they want to see if you recall it as soon as it's said to you, and then 5 minutes later. And they'll say, could do the 3 immediately, but none after 5 minutes, or 1 after 5 minutes. It's a memory test of sorts. And then their conclusion will be, good memory, no problems with memory. Really? And then to say, would have no problem with the mental requirements of unskilled work. An unskilled job still requires you remember things after 5 minutes. Like business, what you're supposed to do. Or if your boss said to you 10 minutes ago to go take out the trash and you forget. I mean, so I don't know. I just, sometimes it's such a joke. Anywho, yeah, it could be any distance of time. But I do think the DDS person will get on them pretty fast. And I think if they were habitual on that, they'd probably be dropped from the pool of possible consultative examiners. Oh, so sorry. Sorry. Don't poop on me. Well, come over here. Say hi. Hi. Machi pokes me in the eye. Just kidding. She's never done that. Hi, baby. You're like, what is a fan making you cold? You're like shaking, but it's warm in here. It seems like this is so close up, doesn't it? I don't know. I don't understand this camera, truly. Barbara Gillespie's in the house. Hi, Barbara. Nice to see you. Oh, Danny, you like my hair today? It's like, maybe it's a good hair day. Yeah, it can vary. For sure. I think the shampoo matters too. I've been playing around with a few. Elliot says, as an advocate for the chronic pain community, I can tell you from many people's perspectives, grief counseling is often beneficial when dealing with a lifetime illness. Yeah, I'm not sure I would even call it grief counseling, only because I wouldn't want people to confuse it with when you lose a loved one to death. Just as death grief counseling is different from divorce grief counseling. Sometimes I think that's when you lose a loved one to divorce, it is different than losing it to death. It's in so many ways, right? But yeah, I think I had my Aunt Wynn, who was not really, gosh, this is really bugging me, guys. I feel like a big head. Do I? Yeah, I do. Like I'm all over. I remember she had lost a close family member, I think a sister, and she was older. I mean, she was probably like then she was probably close to my age now. So this is going back. She has since passed away, but maybe 15 years ago we were out to lunch, and she explained that when she lost her sister, she was so devastated and you know, decided to get grief counseling because it was like, you can fall into a depression if you don't learn how to handle grief in a healthy manner. And I could say that from a perspective because when I was 14, my younger sister, who was 13, got run over by a car and killed at the bus stop. So I know that was very different because it was traumatic, involved family members and, like the whole family. But, we didn't really probably handle it in the healthiest of manners. So I do think it's a big deal. And particularly when grieving people can't really counsel each other too well. So I do think an outside source is a really good thing. And I think, and Elliot, I don't know if you would agree with this or not. Going back to what my aunt said, sorry. She went to a grief counselor and she said, the grief counselor said, I expect you to be discontinuing with me in 6 weeks because that's all you're going to need. And lo and behold, she stopped in 6 weeks and she said it did the job. And I was really impressed by that because, grief can be something that will cling to you for years and years and years and decades and cause unhealthy decisions and even like an unhealthy outlook on how happy you should be when your loved one is no longer here. Like if you're going to be happy, maybe you are being disloyal. I mean, I went through all these things for a long time. I mean, I think my husband and one friend who said something inadvertently on social media very nicely were the two sources that actually made me see differently. And I was like late 40s probably. That's how long it can go on. So I totally agree with that. And I agree there's obviously different kinds of counselors for it. So I'm just the terminology, I think, can be confusing. But for chronic pain, what do you think about? I mean, I guess they call it counseling for adjustment disorder. But also, it's not just adjustment disorder for that, because all what we're talking about is adjusting, right? Adjusting healthily to something. Possibly, and I'm saying this as a non-mental health professional, guys, just comes to mind. This is the way I think. We all are going to have different ways of looking at it. Chronic pain, I think also sometimes, and we talked about this, was it last week or in a different video? Coping with like learning tricks. I don't want to say tricks, but it's like tricks or like tips to cope better with pain. So maybe actually the mental part can help mitigate the pain because we know our minds are very involved with our bodies, right? I know it is a fascinating thing. And I know in the 80s when my family went through what we went through, you didn't go to mental health. That was when it was, very stigmatized. And I guess part of the problem is we call it mental health. Grieving is not mentally unhealthy. It's when you don't do it healthy. It's kind of like eating is not unhealthy unless you do it unhealthily. Drinking is not unhealthy unless you do it in an unhealthy manner. So I think the problem is they call it mental health counseling. And it's not that that's wrong because you're trying to maintain the good mental health you have. And, by making sure that you do all the things that could otherwise tear it down. Grieving, in an unhealthy manner, not realizing you're doing that. I don't know. What do you guys think? Thoughts? Elliot, as an advocate for the chronic pain community, I would also say, in that vein, we could do a video, Elliot. If you have some, probably, yeah. I mean, if that's something you do and you're actually out there and you kind of have spoken to maybe some experts and stuff, in that field, that'd be something to share. I don't know. What do you think? Cold Man, RXP. Hi, Cold. I don't think we've met. Nice to meet you, and thank you for being here. This is Tasha. Right, Tasha? Yeah. Cold says, I am almost 63 and was approved in February. I'm very happy for you for SSDI. I have Meniere's disease and my balance is so bad I hardly ever even drive. Just wonder if I would ever be likely to get a CDR. Unlikely. I mean, unless you screw up and do something completely inappropriate. I don't think you're going to. I'm guessing they put you. Do you know what your diary is? I mean, if they put you on a 1-year diary, which I doubt with that condition, then yeah, you're probably going to get one, but they probably didn't. And if you don't see it in any paperwork, Cold, you can call your field office. It will not detract from your case or cause a CDR, guys. It will never do that to call and get your diary date. And the diary date, of course, sometimes it goes longer than that because, you know, they get other priorities. Okay, William S. Hello, William. I received a CDR about a month ago, and the printed CDR on the envelope freaked me out. Why? Hey, Kosher's in the house. Hey, I heard something about you, Kosher, from a fan of Walter's channel. Said that you are a excellent moderator. So someone just gave you a big, huge, kudos. I just wanted to share that with you. That was super sweet, I thought. Barbara Gillespie says, can you get back pay for survivor's benefits? Yes. Was denied disability 4 years ago, now found disabled as of 1 of 2020. Okay. You can get back pay for survivors, but it's going to stem from your date of application. So the extent of, back benefits, like everything now with Title II, and certainly with Title 16, which is the SSI welfare part, there is limits to back benefits stemming from your date of application. Now, interestingly, before my time doing this, I'm pretty sure it was before my time, I think there was not a back benefits limit. Imagine that, guys, filing 10 years later, proving you were disabled 10 years ago, and getting 10 years of back benefits. Oh my gosh, imagine that. That would be so amazing. I understand they have to do the statute of limitations, if you will. I do understand it. People need to poop or get off the pot. But just can you imagine what that must have been like? Ha! Wow. There would be a lot of wealthy people on disability. That would be so awesome, wouldn't it? Right? Yeah. So it's going to depend when you apply for survivor's benefits. And that was assuming after you were a survivor of somebody under whose record you would be eligible for. And when they find you disabled. You're not going to be able to go ever before any of those dates. It's going to be the latter, the date they find you disabled, minus the, you know what I mean? Like all those dates are going to be checkpoints, and you're going to get the last one once you meet it. That's going to be your date. Dimple says, I always smile when I say your name, Dimple, and as I drink your coffee. Who did you say to contact for concentration issues? Oh, that would be mental health, a counselor. I also saw a chiropractor earlier today, and she is sending me for x-rays with one of the hospital affiliates. We'll have a perfect. That's good. Because while the chiropractor herself may not be an acceptable medical source like a orthopedist would be, the x-rays are being done by a professional in a hospital or any other diagnostic center where they're licensed to do it. And it's being read by a doctor, the radiologist, a specialist. So that's ideal. William S. says, inside the envelope on the short form, I was explaining why it freaked him out, right, William? Was a date in very large font. Was this a due date or a start? What did it say? I don't know, William. I have to see it. I received the letter one day before the printed date, which freaked me out again. Oh, so it's not clear. You know, sometimes, and this is going to make you even more confused, I've seen letters that I get, they got here super fast for some reason, and they are post-dated. So I get it the day they sent it, and the envelope, well, it's not the day they sent it. The envelope says when they sent it, right? The postmark, but the postmark on the outside will be before the date on the inside letter. And they really, that's been going on for years. I don't know why. Anyway, it's a short form, so that's a positive, William. Grab the positives. The Rocho's in the house with the pretty flower. Hello, everyone. Stephanie, happy to hear your all things Social Security. Oh, thank you for being here, LaRocho. It's always good to see you. Joel's in the house. Joel, have we met? I know there's been a Joel in here. Was that you? Or is it Joe L? I see a capital L. I think it's Joe and then L. Am I right? Hi, Stephanie. Any idea on the average time to hear back from SSA after submitted the signed application? It's been almost 2 months and SSA website still shows an application incomplete. Yeah, that's infuriating. So, I mean, I don't know why they're so slow. And they're like, they'll say it's it'll be done within 3 months. Really moved out of the field office to go to the medical workup office, 3 months. It should be less than a week. Period. End of story. Full stop. That is what it should be, unless you left something out that's important and they left you a phone message about it. My opinion, but I'm pretty stubborn with my opinion when it's firm like that. That's ridiculous. I had a recent issue. This was probably last week. It's been a couple months since we submitted representation documents on a person who's going to hearing. So they have to process that. And I think they did say, we know you have a representative so-and-so, but they never connected me to the electronic file. I think that's what that was. And so I am boom, 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 blasting them with resends. Get it together. In a pretty harsh language. I drafted a very harsh letter. I might have, did I say this to you guys last week? Or maybe in a video. I feel like I was just talking about it. And I'm like, all right, from now on, I'm not tolerating it. When it's going to be approaching 2 months at the very least, that's when I'm going to be sending out the harsh letter and saying, if we don't see connection within 2 weeks, it is going to the congressman. Period. You guys can deal with. I'm sure they track how many congressional inquiries they get, and it doesn't make them look good. It's like a bad experience rating. So I'm gonna do it because it's only appropriate. Because it's just ridiculous. Another one, same thing. I sent one letter out, said the same thing, and this is all last week, and now I'm connected. So take the threat seriously because I'm contacting your congressperson or my client's congressperson. Helping my client contact the congressperson. La Rocho's in the house. Yeah. It's funny. I always say she's talking about the traumatic experience. 40-something years ago, guys, it was 1982. Totally been functional the whole time, but in a very maybe dysfunctional way when I was younger. I mean, got through school, did everything you're supposed to do. But I always say it's not, the thing is horrible, right? It's the aftermath that drags on, even if you're healthy about it, the ripples. I see what it did to my parents, my wonderful parents who had a fabulous marriage with 3 daughters, now 2. They lasted 3 years. They couldn't grieve the same way. It was traumatic. And then, some over the course of time with, I won't even get into it, but I always say it's the wave after the boat, after the traumatic boat, goes flying through and tears everything up, that it's like a forever ripple. I just saw what it did to both my parents immediately and in the decades after. And it's just horrible. Oh, Dimple, it's birthday day. I'm officially 60 today, and I don't feel a day over 95. Oh, my God. You're too funny. Yeah, but you know what? You have a personality of a young, vibrant person. So I love that. I love that about you, Dimple. You always make me smile. Barbara Gillespie says, happy birthday, Dimple. Dimple says, thank you, Barbara. Kosher. Famous, infamous, depends on who's talking. Well, you're in good company here, so they thought it was fabulous. They said you did a bang-up job. Kathy Clayton says, does SSA send you for another consultative examination in the reconsideration stage? I have seen it, Kathy, but not often. Not often. They'll just rely on the old one. I have seen it. It's been very infrequent, though. But they will probably send you a function report. Oh, Dick is in the house. Hi, Dick. I know it's Roman numerals, but no. It's easier to say Dick. And plus, my dad was Dick Joy. What do you think of that name? Short for Richard. Okay. He says hello, and I say hello back. Little Nutty's in the house. Hi, Little Nutty. Have we met before? Ah, Little Nutty agrees, Kosher. Kosher is a very good moderator. It can get pretty crazy at Walters. Well, I imagine it could be. When you think about what's being discussed, I would think it would be, people would be flying off the handle. Wayne Corder. Hello, always enjoy your live stream. Have a great day. Thanks for showing up, Wayne. I appreciate you. It's Joe L. Good to see you, Joe. Oops. Joe. I gotta slow it down, right? Impossible. I always tell people, on your settings in YouTube, you can adjust the speed of the speaker. So I recommend everybody do that. That is not really used to fast talkers. I am used to fast talkers and obviously do it myself. So, so LSH, who is that? You might make an interesting guest of Stephanie's. Who is LSH? LSH? You know what would be a good speaker too? Good, duo. I usually just have, other, like Jonathan or Shauna, but and those are great. But someone who, the only way I would feel kind of comfortable if it's someone who was not a beneficial. Well, we could do a pre-recorded. Maybe that would, I would just be concerned that someone who is claiming benefits, either pending or has, that they might say something that could be misconstrued and hurt them. Now, if someone was a listing level of something, that's obviously not an issue because there's no RFC to deal with. So I'm thinking someone who's now tipped over into retirement, like 67, yeah, or is no longer on SSD for some other reason besides retirement. I don't know. Just a thought. Because it would be interesting to see what. Oh, ish. I see. Kosher. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what you'd want to talk about, but if it's something, I'm just concerned about someone who's on disability because I don't know. I always think of, who could be watching. And it's not like doing it is indicative of being able to, for the vast majority of disabled people, indicative of being able to work on a sustained full-time basis. But I just always feel very protective of people in that way. Okay, I'm just scrolling down. Renee Killingworth. Okay. Renee says, my case was in reconsideration. I see DDS has finished my file. and send it to my local field offices to see if I still qualify for non-medical disability benefits. Does that mean I got approved? No, unfortunately it doesn't. It doesn't mean you were denied though. They send that to everybody. They say they're saying that they're doing that with everybody. Everyone gets that message, and it makes no sense because if you were denied, you shouldn't be getting a non-medical review. There is nothing to review. You have no claim. So I am. It annoys me to no end. I've been babbling about this since 2023, and I would like them to fix it. Gina Frazier, I don't think we've met. Hi, Gina. Claiming mine plus spousal at 62. Okay. Spouse claimed it. Yeah, because if you claim yours, you are automatically deemed to claim a spousal and vice versa. I believe. Definitely if you claim a spousal, it's deemed to be a claim on your own work record. That changed under the Obama administration back in 2015 when they were trying to save money. So they took away that retirement saving strategy for seniors. It was pretty unfortunate. It used to be where you could, as a spouse turning 62, claim your spousal benefit and let your own work record continue to 67 or whatever your full retirement age is, and switch, letting yours thereby grow like a significant amount, like 50% greater. So you'd be collecting a smaller amount, and then you would be doing that if your own amount once it grew to 67 is better than your spousal amount at 62. And they took that away and said, nope, from now on, if you try to get spousal, it's going to be that you are claiming your own. So you're no longer delaying your own. I was reading at the time. I mean, at the time I wasn't doing this, obviously. But I was doing consulting for a corporation on the side and providing answers to people with questions. And it had been, I remember when I was reading up on it, the effect after, the married people on average lost $60,000 that they had planned to be in their retirement from that average. So I thought, and the bigger problem was they didn't give, it'd be one thing if they said, we're implementing this, it's a law now for everyone who is, it'll be in effect, let's say for those that are currently 55, but when they hit 62. At least have, and 55 is actually kind of old. I'm thinking maybe it should have been 50. But to hit them hard, there was no buffer. These people had no way to go back and save more. They didn't have an extra 7 years, like the younger people did. And at the time, so what was that? 12 years ago. Oh my God. Yes, I was in like my mid 40s or whatever. Plenty of time to make up for it once the rule changes, but not the people that are 61, right? They gave the people that will be 62 in 6 months will let you slide. I mean, it was so cruel. It was just cruel. It saves a ton of money. I get that they had to do it, but I just think you have to do things that are painful. I would have liked to have been able to do that. It took away from all of us. However, that's what the law has to do when it's over, when the fund, they have to make changes. I get that. But to not give a grandfathering of something reasonable for the people in their 50s or definitely late 50s. Goodness. All right. My vent is over. Kosherish says, I'm step 3, listing approved at 53. Listing approved. That's good. Now 55. I'm full of useful information. I am sure you are. Message me and say, this is what I would like to talk about. And we could do a pre-recorded if you prefer, or, it's up to you. Now, think hard about the listing too. I don't know what yours is. Let's say it was blindness. Listing level blindness, and there is no cure. And we don't anticipate one. I would feel more comfortable with something like that. But sometimes listing level things do have recoveries. So the listing level gets you the win without having to prove your RFC at that moment. Do you have a DLI? Not a DLI, a diary date? Oh my gosh, the dates are on my brain. A diary date, Coach? Because if you do, that's when they're, and if it's 5 to 7, safer. If it's 3, they expect you to improve, so definitely look at all those things. Little Nutty thinks so highly of you, Kosher. Okay, AJ is in the house. AJ Moore. I don't think we've met AJ. Nice to meet you. AJ says, I'm confused because all my payments show SSI back pay. But SSI has said that I'm not eligible due to my SSDI being too high. So why does it keep saying SSI instead of SSDI? I wouldn't know because I don't know what you're looking at. But it would be true that if you have a high enough income, you're not going to get the SSI welfare income too, right? That's for the people that don't have that. It's to, help them. And we can't be giving it to everybody who's got it already. If you're not getting SSI, it's because your SSD exceeds what SSI would give you. All right. And sometimes it exceeds by triple, and sometimes it exceeds by $50. But it doesn't matter. It exceeds. So you're already getting what would be needed for SSI. You're getting it from your SSD. Now, I don't know if this is what you're potentially dealing with. If you are waiting, if you just won, and if you had months that you were not going to get SSDI for, the first 5 months of SSDI disability are not payable. It's the waiting period, AJ. If you had the SSI application in at that time, let's say you did it concurrently with your SSD application, you would get 5 months of back benefits for SSI. So they might just be figuring out what those are. They got to make sure that your perk going to be all your financials during those 5 months were in line for you to be able to get it. We know you didn't have SSDI during those months. So was there anything else? Did you have a working spouse that made too much? Did you own or with regard to resources, did you have a second car in your name that's going to make you disqualified, or a piece of real estate in your name that you don't live on? Those things would be things that would disqualify you if you still had them. If you were renting out a room and getting income from that, depending on how much it was, that could disqualify you from SSI because you have that income. So all sorts of things to think about. If you have a 401k that's going to boot out SSI, so you spend it. Dimple had to scoot. I'll catch the replay later. Thanks, Dimple. Good to see you. I'll talk to you soon. Coacher says, I don't know which listing I met, although several were possible. I'm a 3. Oh, all right. 3-year cycle, to keep robust with your treatment, right? Not necessarily as robust as when you were fighting for it, but, 3-year means they expect you to improve. So, you might want to get your DDE, Kosher, Disability Determination Explanation. You can get it from your field office. They should be able to email it to you, or they should be sending people this automatically when they prevail, I think. Or when they are denied. It should be attached to the letter. It drives me crazy. Why don't they just... I mean, they're more transparent than they were. I know last year we got in where now we attorneys and non-attorney reps who have access to the electronic file, they now, as a general rule, put in the DDE on initial when the person gets denied or awarded, and on reconsideration, award or denial. In the past, prior to that, and the DDE is very, very, very useful for strategy, seeing exactly what happened, where there, in our mind, where their misinterpretations of evidence came in, and we know what to fight then, right? It used to be up until, like a year ago, where we could, I think it was last June, less than a year ago, where we could not get our hands on that until we appealed for an ALJ hearing. You really want that way before. That helps us guide our people even better on initial and recon. So hopefully they can win on recon if they were denied on initial. But, you know, so we do have access now. We're trying to get access to more sections of the file. I personally think we should have access to every SSA letter that came out of the field office or the payment office or everything else. It should all be in that electronic file. Because not everything is about medical. A lot of it, you know, a lot of cases, it is about overpayments and this and that. And, you know, we should just be able to see it all. The rationales, everything. I mean, that would be transparent. Who doesn't agree with that? Gina says, sorry, was asking if my survivor benefits would always be reduced because I claimed mine plus. You can't get two people's benefits at once. So you can't stack them, Gina. You're going to get the highest benefit you're eligible for. So each benefit eligibility is a one-person thing. You can't have two of them. You can have the maximum, and then sometimes if that means you're taking more from the spouse and your own, you can take less from the spouse's maximum benefit because yours is going to be taken to get you up to here. And then the spouse will be whatever is going to be, because his spousal was bigger or survivor was bigger, that'll be tacked on top. It's important to know that because with the family max, if there's a child under that spouse collecting a, you know, dependent benefit, you taking from that would then potentially, you both couldn't take your full amounts that way. So by you know, thankfully you get yours, and then whatever would have been the amount you get from his maximum, his family pot. So, but yeah, you can't get two, and it's really important to know this, guys, because when two married people are each collecting retirement benefits or disability or whatever, and one dies, too many widows and widowers have no idea that now that stream of income from the other person's retirement is going away. If that other person's was bigger than them, yes, they could switch to a spousal survivor, but they're not going to be able to have both. You get one person benefit per, you know what I mean? So I've seen people then not be able to pay their mortgage because they didn't plan for that, because they thought that even though their spouse is deceased, they're going to keep collecting his benefit plus their own. It's not so. Yeah, so your research is starting to tell you right, Gina. You get one benefit, you can choose the biggest one, and obviously you're going to. And that's the benefit of multiple streams. The survivor benefit when you're disabled is very useful too for a spouse who never had a work record that would get her SSD. You know, it could be a remote. I have a case like this right now. It could be a remote. She has a remote DLI. Maybe she stopped working, raising the kids, and then she gets disabled, can't get SSD. But then, God forbid, the spouse passes away, and now she's disabled. She could get if she's between 50 and 60 at least, not under 50. Between 50 and 60, she could get a disabled widow's benefit for being disabled when she couldn't have got it on her own non-existent record, or reduced, insufficient own record. So that's where the SSD is most of value for someone who has been disabled but couldn't get it under their own record, and their spouse has been supporting them, and then their spouse passes away, and now they're like, up Chit's Creek. And that's spelled CHIT, guys. I'm not cursing. I'm trying to curb my truck driver colorful language. You guys don't hear too much of it at all. But my daughter says it's blasphemous. I don't know if I agree, depending on how you use it. But I'm just excited that she's kind of getting into learning things and self-improvement and stuff like that in a particular vein. And so I figured, all right, I was a little resistant at first. It's like a week ago. And I'm like, what's it going to hurt me? What is it going to hurt me? So I keep apologizing all day long because when something goes on here, like, I have multiple screens here. It's like, ooh. and I'm working on this and I'm working on this. I usually have multiple projects up at one time. And oh, I'm so used to flipping out words and stuff like that. I mean, I'm alone in here except for Tasha and my tortoise. But yeah, I'm like, all right. So I do a quick, I have, it's amazing because I'm getting more and more conscious of it because I'm apologizing every time I do it. And sometimes I'll apologize and then I'll say another one in my apology because I'm like, I'm so used to it. I don't know. Any colorful sailors here? Anybody? Colorful speaking, I should say. Kosher says, what's the best way to get the info on which listing? You're going to want to go exactly what I just said, your DDE. You probably posted this before I said it. Maybe not. Yeah, probably. Your DDE, contact the field office. You might have to fill out a 3288, which is a pain in the rear, but and just ask for that one document. You could actually ask for your entire file, and they have to give it to you, even though they might say they don't. But your DDE, if you just ask for that, sometimes they take like 3 months to get it to you. It's very inappropriate, but I would definitely get that. I think everybody should get that win, lose, or draw. Everyone. Kosher says, I have multiple big issues. My fear is that the official one improves. They're all your impairments made up your, it's not just, all of your impairments are part of it. So you think you may have won on one listing, but that doesn't mean all the others. Let's say you fell short a hair on that listing. You might still, with all the others, equivalent of a listing in meaning, or flat out win on RFC. So don't be too fearful about it. But I think it's really important for you to know, you know. I do analyses on those sometimes for people. Because it can be a little Greekish because it's the way they lay it out. Is that a JC? JC22 is in the house. You from New York, JC? Any tips for disabled adult child SSI recipient? Okay. So you're getting DAC plus SSI? Or do you just mean DAC? Converting to, oh. So you haven't, okay. You haven't won the DAC yet. You're trying to get the DAC now that you're probably eligible due to some event with a parent. Oh, yeah. This is the crux, guys. JC's saying, how do I prove DAC when my medical records from when I was before 22 are not available? Been on SSI since age 17, not 47. Oh, that's not horrible. I haven't researched this, JC, but they found you disabled as a child. Certainly before age 22, because you've been on SSI since age 17, and then you went for a redetermination at 18. You might not remember this, to make sure you met the adult definition of disabled, not just the child's. So, sorry, I'm just trying to fix this. And you're now 47. Okay. They've been giving you some version of a CDR all along. They still find you disabled. I think there's a good chance you're going to get it. Because, I mean, the argument should be, and I don't know if this was affected at all by the res judicata ruling, which I have not done all the research on, guys. So I can't really speak to exactly how it worked. But, because they tweaked it in some way. But if they've been saying you've been disabled every year since 17 years old, how can they now say you haven't proved that you were disabled before age 22? And that's where I think that whole collateral estoppel should be holding out. I don't know if that's what the law says. Collateral estoppel, res judicata, whatever. I mean, they could say, they look at evidence now and say, well, he's not even treating now. We don't think he's disabled now. That's a different story. But the proof, that should be, and again, I'm not sure if the law has caught up with the logic here and the common sense of it all, but That should be the way it is. Yeah, CDR, if they say you haven't been treating, therefore there's no proof you still are disabled, that's fine, that's fair. Obviously keep treating there, JC. But I would be arguing that no. They every year they have approved his claim. It's a monthly claim if you think about it. You just don't have to do anything about it. Every month you have to be disabled. They've said he was disabled. All those months through 22 and every month since. This would be my vigorous argument. And I would be looking up that whatever that new tweaky thing was. It was recent. Coacher says, didn't get a DDE, and when I called SSA, got a guy that said he wasn't supposed to tell me, like a secret. That was just an ignorant, lazy poop. Seriously. Ridiculous. Not supposed to tell me. You know what it is? He's not really supposed to be looking, spending time. What he should have done is sent it to you. So you can ask for a copy of the DDE. They might say, well, fill out the 3288. So then go fill out 3288 and you can get it. And I would if I were you. You're leaving like dander all over my keyboard. I bought a little vacuum though. My machine is too expensive not to. JC says, now parent retired, but DAC denied because old medical records no longer available. Oh, man. That is so important to figure out. Oh, gosh, JC, I'm going to write this down because it's not like I have time, but I want to make time. I do a lot of 11 p.m. research projects, guys. I'm a little nuts. Hold on. I'm just writing down your thing. And did you get a medical workup? Or did it ever not go to? You need to appeal that. If that's a medical finding that we can't, I would appeal. If it says you almost have to appeal it. Because I'm not sure if that would be a medical finding of this of not disabled 22. It sounds like it would be. So read that denial letter. DAC denied despite SSI due to records not available. The funny thing is, they should have those records, right, JC? They had them when you were 17. How did they approve you? How did they approve you on at 18 that you meet the adult standard? And every CDR since. So that is so. I'm sorry. I'm so angry for you. I'm really angry for you. But it is something I always say too. This is particularly important for parents that don't have an SSI child. Keep those medical records. I know. Who thinks about it, right? Who knows? I don't even know. Did DAC exist 30 years ago? I actually don't know when it came about. Yeah. All right. If I get time, JC, I am going to try to see if I can find something. All right. If I do, maybe I'll do a video. A pre-recorded. Because, yeah. At the very least, I would do a post. And it would probably be under the general post under the channel because I'm not going to stick it under some remote one of the thousands of videos because we'll never find it. All right. Mrs. Tracy N? Okay. Yes, my friend found that out the hard way. Are you talking about JC's problem? I hope they both, did you guys both get lawyers or non-attorney reps who like to do these kind of, it's kind of a pro bono thing, but, it's such an important issue because it affects everybody. Everybody, not just you because of your medicals. It's such a widespread thing. Lori Gannon's in the house. Hi, Lori. Every time I go to, nice to meet you, I don't think we've met, and I don't think you've been in here. Your name sounds familiar, though. Every time I go to doctor, we are finding new issues in addition to the original one that's disabled me, such as testing with results compatible with MS. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. So I'm not sure what your question is. JC says, how can someone be found disabled for SSI purposes for the past 30 years since 17? Exactly spot on. But that's not evidence enough to prove they have been disabled since before 22. Yes, that's exactly it. The illogic is demonstrably like ill-intended. It's like it's against reality, and I can't stand that. Is this Mishken? I'm 65, or Micken. I'm thinking it's like Michelle and Ken. I'm 65 and have been on SSDI since 2004. All right, so 22 years. So you were a young person when you started. I was just recently awarded VA disability. Does this affect my... No. Well, no. Because you're talking about P&T, right? Not at all. You get both, my dear. And thank you for your service. I appreciate everyone here does, I think. Yeah, you guys are the bomb. But yeah, that's the beautiful thing about VA P&T, and it's just a beautiful thing. It's the way it should be. Lori goes on to say, I applied last year and I'm still in step 3Q. No examiner assigned yet. Yeah, so you're in a place where the state hasn't really done well with their work staff and keeping enough people, and because those are state workers, you know, doing the medical workup. Hopefully they'll get their stuff together and have a better process. Gregory Petty's in the house. Hi, Stephanie. Yes, hello, Gregory. Woo. Hi, Gregory. Deli is in the house. Coast Sailor here. Seriously, Delia? Delia and I have spoken before. You don't seem like a truck driver to me. You're always... But of course, when we speak together, we don't do that, right? I tend to do it a little bit with you know, when I'm giving a first conference with someone who might become a client, I let a few words slip out sometimes if we get to talking a lot, and I'm okay with it for that purpose. I don't really think we should all be so, you know, because while it's a professional setting in a sense, this is a very personal relationship. It really is when you're an SSD attorney for people, unless you're just going to be hands off and, you know, let your minions do it all. But so, yeah, I do let them fly a little bit, and nobody seems to care because apparently everybody else does the same. And I kind of want people to feel comfortable talking to me and not feeling that they have to always be stilted. So that's probably another reason why I just naturally do it. However, like I said, I'm trying to eliminate. So I don't know if that'll make me a far more boring person. I hope not. We'll see. Jen Mee's in the house. Hi, Jen. Hi, Stephanie. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday to you, too. What, in your opinion, causes an ALJ to tell you they are going to approve favorable at the hearing? That's happened to me. Yep. Probably at least twice in the 21 years I've been doing this. I think twice. Definitely once, but possibly twice. And there are other times when they have their questions and dicta have implied the same, and then they didn't. And that happened recently. And she says, Jen says, is that just a nice judge? No, that is a mean judge. That is a horribly mean judge. And I think it should be considered unethical, judicially unethical. The implied stuff is a little bit of a gray area, but to outright say it, no. I'll tell you about the incident I had. So this was, I actually was in Savannah doing this hearing. This is probably not 20 years ago, but close to it. Maybe 2010 or something like that. So I was doing this hearing in Savannah. The reason why I went to it was because I was going to be in Bluffton, South Carolina at my in-laws which is right by Hilton Head, which is not far from Savannah. So, you know, and that was back when it took a lot of effort, and I did it all the time. I had remote hearings all the time back when no one knew about them. My colleagues, I was young and new at it and hungry. So I had cases all over the country. Everyone else thought you had to be in your own little section of the world, and because you have to drive to a hearing, you know. And I'm like, yeah, that's not gonna fly. And I got it arranged with my regional hearing office that I would go for my locals. Where those hearings are, they had video rooms, so they would let me use a video room, and they would use their equipment, and I could be having a hearing with someone in Florida or Louisiana or California or Arkansas or Washington or Hawaii or wherever. It was that judge, though. He actually offered a closed period, and my client declined, understandably, because he was still disabled. And I thought it was pretty clear. But the judge, I don't know if he did it off the record, so there was no proof that he said it. I'm trying to remember. So the offer for a closed period, and if you guys don't know what that is, that's when he says, yes, I could find you disabled, but I think it ended on this date, so you'll get the in-between period, and now you're not disabled. If you get worse, you file again. You can even do a reinstated, an expedited reinstatement. If there's more evidence that, you just haven't had the chance to go work up or whatever, like you haven't been for an updated MRI or whatever. And he offered that, and it was declined. And I thought it was okay that my client declined it, because it would seem ethically that the judge would then issue a partially favorable, not fully, because he obviously believes it's a closed period. But how do you go from saying I can offer you a closed period and then not rule that way? That means you're not ruling pursuant to what you see from the record. He outright denied the guy. I was so floored. I remember talking to a colleague who talked to a different colleague who said that I was punked. He used the word punked. And that it was my fault and all that. Like I shouldn't have, And I'm like, well, shouldn't have what? Should have forced my client to accept the closed period. He ended up appealing. I gave it to a law firm that does those federal district court appeals, and I guess he's probably disabled now, but I'm not sure. But I remember being like, wow, what an unethical, lying piece of poop. Horrible. So I would say a judge that's what that one was overt, what I'm talking about, Jen, me, but like I would say a judge that implies, I think that's, if it's clearly implying, not just that the attorney feels that it went really well. Two totally different animals. I know all of these different shades of gray very well. But if they outright imply it, which I kind of feel happened at a recent hearing, I think that's unethical. And if you outright say it, like you're talking about, make sure that's on the record, meaning on the audio. They can't just turn it off, So I'm trying to remember what that guy did, but whatever it was, I think he did it off the record, and that makes me uncomfortable. Why would you do it off the record? Just saying. Lori Gannon says, I applied last year for disability. I'm still in stage 3Q with no exam rights. Okay. So did I go backwards, or did you repeat yourself? So I think we haven't met. IBDTNTR. 1B. I'm going to call you 1B. Nice to meet you, 1B. I don't think we've met before. As a disabled veteran, thank you for your service. I appreciate you very, very much. I was denied SSDI because I had not paid into it for several years. Yeah, that's a problem. And I hope you understand why. SSDI is Social Security Disability Insurance. And so like all insurances, you have to pay for it. We pay for it through our work taxes. We don't actually have to come out with a check and pay them outright, right? It's all part of the taxes. Not part of income tax, but it sits next to it. Separate tax. So if you don't buy it, such as like if you buy it for a while, like you buy car insurance for a year, and then you don't buy it for the next year, and the term runs out that 1 year that you bought it for, and you have the car accident on day 2 or day 1 after the term you bought is over, guaranteed that auto insurance company is not going to cover the damage to your car or any liability lawsuit that might go against you if someone thinks you caused it. You know, that's just not how insurance works. They don't say, well, he bought it once, so we're just going to go and pay. That would be no insurance policy could stand. All insurance would be destroyed and they would not be able to fund themselves. It's got to go with the math. The premiums and the payment of them are all based on, and the ability to do that is based on calculations and how much money has to come through the door. So when someone stops paying, it's going to have to be term. So it is, I always say SSDI is term insurance. Social Security retirement is not. I mean, you'll always be insured for it once you get vested, those 10 years or whatever it is. And the only thing you can do is deplete, minimize, decimate your benefit amount by not working till you're 62 and not getting on SSDI. But IB, make sure, I mean, if you stopped working when you weren't disabled, if you just stopped for some other reason, that's a problem. But if you make sure that you did not allege an onset of disability that was way after you weren't insured. Find out your DLI, guys. You know, I'm always humming and hoeing about the DLI, date last insured. Find that out and then determine, but I was disabled before then, way before then. I couldn't work full time and I was treating. So I know I have evidence. Sometimes some people make the mistake, and I'm not saying you did this, but it would be good if you did under these circumstances. Some people put down the month before they apply for some reason. They think maybe they were working part-time and then they stopped and they go, what can I do? Stopped working, but that's not how it works. Yes, it would be after you work full-time, but sometimes they just put something wonky, like maybe they got an MRI, but they've been treating for this for a long time. You finally get the MRI, so that's when they put as their onset date. If you were disabled in your mind from working any full-time job, like you just know I could not do full-time, and I for mental and physical reasons for which I was treating, then you probably have the wrong alleged onset date. And they look at that and they say, well, he wasn't insured when he says he was disabled. End of story. We're not even setting it up to medical. So that's kind of a non-medical denial. So that doesn't even count as a medical denial, which is good. You can go reapply if you think it was actually older than that. But what you're going to want to do, IB, is get your date last insured. Date last insured. If you get your earnings statement, which you can download off of SSA.gov, it won't tell you your date last insured, but it can be calculated from there. I know we have a kind of a nominal service to do that for people. Doesn't cost that much if you wanted it done, or the free way is to call Social Security Administration and ask for your date last insured. But you're also going to want your earnings statement because you want to see when did they recorded earnings? What if you had earnings that aren't in there for some reason? You filed the tax returns and they're not in there. Just get to check. Brittany says, what does the letters in DAC stand for and what is DAC? Disabled adult child, Brittany? Disabled adult child, and it means the person was disabled before the age of 22. And then to achieve the benefits that a DAC can get, they have to prove that through medical evidence primarily and other evidence that they were in fact legally disabled as defined before the age of 22 and that they never became not disabled under the rules since. So they have to kind of prove that there was a continuity of disability every year after. So hopefully they continue to treat in some way. It's for people to be able to get, you know, if you're a DAC, you were disabled before age 22, you had no chance of making a nice dandy income like your dream might have been, right? I shouldn't say no chance. I should say very reduced chance. And because many disabled children earn tons of money because they think out of the box and they have these skills or these personalities, right? But you know, for the rest of us, when they can't get it just because they are disabled for a 22, it's just, you know, now they're 30 and they're like, oh, I could get that. One of their parents of whom they were a dependent has to be now collecting the disability or retirement, or have passed away, and there would be a DAC via being a survivor. So those are the triggers, which is why sometimes someone doesn't become eligible to apply for DAC, even though they were disabled for a very long time, until they're in their 40s, 50s, when the parent decided to collect, you know, retirement. And then some of the dangers of that, if you've been here the whole, you know, afternoon here, they sometimes don't have that evidence to show that they were disabled before 22 because medical evidence disappears. You know, before things were electronic, guys, which is not that many years ago, I can't tell you how many times I would hear, and this would be for like someone who, it was records that were maybe only 8 years old. They would tell us that it was in a warehouse and the warehouse burnt down. There were a lot of warehouse fires. Let me tell you something. It was like epidemic. And you knew that they just tossed them or didn't want to get them. I think they probably tossed them. I don't know if they shredded them or not, but I'm just saying. I would like to think now with electronic, they would never get rid of anything, but there is no hard rule, really. I think states might have rules, like a 7-year rule on medical providers keeping the records after the person is no longer a patient. And of course, if you are a patient, they better not let any of them go. But I don't think it's universal, and I don't know that it's enforced. Very frustrating. Gregory Olson's in the house. Hi, Gregory. Will SSDI attorneys take on a case where I will probably get approved for the compassionate allowance to the SSA Blue Book? 1117, is that a compassionate allowance or is that a listing? Would they take on a compassionate allowance? Of course. However, if you think you meet a compassionate allowance versus a listing, Gregory, you probably won't need an attorney. So why do that? If you're mistaken, so I would do your research first. You don't really want to waste one bite at the apple without the attorney if you can help it. Read up on it. Take it to, take the definition, everything they have about that particular compassionate allowance from the CAL list, and find the criteria and maybe discuss it with your doctor to say, are all these criteria met? Can you show me where? Can we pull out the medicals? And you're kind of hand feeding it to the SSA. Not a bad idea. But you might not need an attorney is my point, and why pay the fee? There might not be a fee if it's SSD, if you win it in the first 5 months. But if there's going to be back benefits, there's going to be a fee, or they could do a fee petition, that kind of thing. There was a time when I was doing applications for certain compassionate allowance, just like pro bono. It was ALS. I had an old friend who died of ALS when we were in our 40s. And she had been a police officer. And such a insidious disease. But I decided after that, ALS, I will file the applications for them pro bono, get all the information and stuff. And I didn't represent them because I didn't think they needed it. But, doing the legwork, I guess. So, their families are busy and probably everyone's already grieving. Elliot, I don't know if you're still here, but I would think even that diagnosis would be in need of some sort of counseling. Perhaps, for many people anyway. Hi, Christina. Hello from California. I appreciate you, Christina. Delia says, co-sailor here, although typing publicly might be a little extreme. Yes, we don't do it in our typing, right? And you can always get a good reviewer to make sure, do a little proofread, do a little search. I don't think typing is the same. Dictation typing, though, if someone's not paying attention, could be bad. Hello from Georgia. Thank you, Brittany. Lori says PCPs order testing for MRIs. I love MRIs. Everyone who has any musculoskeletal issues should probably be getting, in my opinion, updated MRIs no less than every 2 years. Personally, I like to see them every 1 year. It shows changes. It confirms lack of improvement, but oftentimes things degenerate. So those new MRIs can make your case stronger. So that's one of the things I nag my people about. Yeah. Scott Jones is in the house. Hi, Scott. I don't think we've met, have we? Having kidney disease and being on dialysis, does that qualify for any more benefits? Sometimes. Dialysis certainly takes it to a new level, particularly if it's very frequent. It's not going to be more benefits, though. I'm sorry. I didn't read your full thing thoroughly. It can be a qualifier for disability, but no, you don't get kudos for it. Because, and here's the deal, Scott, it's insurance. You bought X amount of benefits with the premiums you paid. There's no welfare component to toss on top of that for you. There's welfare out there, but that's not it. That's the insurance you bought and paid for. It's earned. It's all yours. There's no welfare flop on. Jen Me says, if one can't be present consistently at a job in the first place, what is your doc supposed to answer to the how many hours can he do a day? 0? Well, why isn't the question something different? Instead, ask the doctor, would you expect I'm trying to think of how the questions that we see, like, how many days a month would you expect this person to be not being able to attend work, absences from work? And you're going to give him a 0, so he could say, oh, no, she wouldn't miss any work. 1, 2, 3, 4 plus. And that's his opinion. If his medical records don't say much about your symptoms that would suggest that, then that's going to be an they're not going to be well supported, and they probably won't take them to heart. But that is the kind of question. I wouldn't say how many hours in a day unless that's something more clear. But there's always the absenteeism that's an issue. It's not really in the DOT type of thing or in a set rule, but the vocational experts will all say that beyond X amount of days, and they vary a little bit on the X's, beyond X amount of days missed work per month, if one can expect that person to miss 1, 2, 3, 4, depending on the vocational expert, that person would not be able to perform that job satisfactorily to the customary tolerances of employers generally. And then you would be disabled if the judge believes that you, in fact, would not be able to attend that much work. So we'd be considering that, your treating doctor's statement, any of the medical records. I mean, hopefully mental health professionals talk about, she has many, many dysfunctional days where she, is cannot leave bed for days in a row, won't shower, this, that, and the other thing, whatever's going on. Those things would be consistent or supportive of a later opinion that I would expect her to not be able to attend to work 4+ days a month. Not be able to versus won't feel like it. Because how many times I have young adults in the house and in my neighborhood that I know, and it's a different generation than when I grew up. So they all tend to feel like, well, if I don't feel like going to work today, I should be able to call out, and they shouldn't be able to can me. I'm like, of course they can can you. Did your job description say you can call out whenever you want? Like, you're hired for this. This is when you show. But they seem to think, but if I don't feel well, it depends how unwell you feel. And then I also explain, and by the way, do you have any idea if you have sick days? Like, is there an agreement where you get a certain amount of sick days? Are you exceeding that amount? Are you thinking they have to just keep you on even though you're not showing up when you promised? It's amazing. It's almost like an entitlement situation that society has put on them, that they just feel like, it's a beautiful day and I want to go fishing or hang out with my girlfriend or whatever. And then just, that's like a luxury of the job. And I think jobs have become more tolerant of it because there's so many poor employee morale people out there now. Healthy, able-bodied people, not disabled people, like our community here. And I don't know if you guys have seen it. I think it's very, very sad. It's very sad. It's like a work ethic thing. God, I can remember all the days I used to go to work when I worked for somebody else. And, 2 years after college, before I went to law school, this is a funny story. I commuted all the way to Newark, New Jersey from northwestern New Jersey. So I had a long commute, worked all day. It was a 40-hour week, though. It wasn't like I do now. Now it's like, 80. But it's a difference between loving it and hating it, right? And Sundays, I didn't even enjoy Sundays. And I had weekends off. It was a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, like your typical corporate job. And my whole demeanor probably changed on Sundays. I was tearing it up Fridays, tearing it up like Friday nights, Saturdays with my friends. And then Saturday, I started getting a little anxious. I really didn't like my job. It was very boring to me. So, Saturday I would just be like, party harder because, you can ignore the fact that, tomorrow's the last day of the weekend. And then Sunday I would just be like, oh, God, I have to go to work on Monday. I didn't like my job. And I wasn't looking for like a fun job. I just wanted something that I could be interested in and like, right? Not their fault. It was just, and my father, and I've never had depression in my life. I mean, I've had sad periods, like everybody else. And he actually brought me, so here I am, like 21 years old, been working for 2 years. Well, no, he started at 21. So I was like 23 probably, or 22, maybe in the middle. And he brought me a brochure about depression. And he goes, because he seems so sad when I see you on Sunday. I'm like, Dad, it's just because I can't stand my job and I got to go to it and I got to do something. That's when I ended up resigning and going to law school. But how funny is that? I mean, it is funny in a way, isn't it? I thought I was depressed. I mean, I suppose a miserable job for too long will make you depressed, though. JC says, went all the way, ALJ, who claimed that medical evidence between 18 and 22 doesn't show severity. Been on SSI nonstop. I can't believe you went to an ALJ and he did this. Oh my gosh, so what is that? Might be res judicata now. I think that's atrocious and an injustice. I'm still going to try to find out the answer. I don't know if it's too late for you, JC, but it is appalling. If I do find the answer, sometimes you can file again within a certain amount of years, and under certain circumstances, they will overturn an ALJ. It's very rare. But let's say he didn't consider that law. Thing is, was it a law? Because I've heard about this for years, and I was just hoping that new thing they did maybe remedy that. And again, I don't know. Jenny says, by the way, guys, it's 2:30. We're an hour and a half in. What do you find to be the most difficult jobs to eliminate when talking about what jobs are left in the economy by the VE? Well, when you're a young person, as you might be, it's the simple, unskilled, basic third grade jobs. Because they take the least mental acuity, focus, concentration, and all that. The beauty of proving, as unofficial as it may be at times, the absenteeism problem is that it eliminates all jobs, regardless of anything else. Sorry, I'm cleaning up poop. Baby. Nobody can see you. You guys see her? I should have done this before. Sorry. But I can't see all this stuff. Okay. My eyes are not that good. So think about simple, unskilled, sedentary. Oh, add this to it, Jen. There are jobs that don't require interaction with the public. There's a lot of mental health cases. That's a big issue. Yeah. And don't require, I believe, any interaction with coworkers. But no jobs under the VE stuff exist where you don't have to at least occasionally interact with the supervisor. So proof about being unable to reliably interact with a supervisor when a supervisor might want to, because it might be one of your off moments, despite the fact that you're trying for 8 hours to do it, you know. They don't like to look at that. They do not like to look at that. We fight that a lot with some of our more seriously mentally ill clients under 50. But that is what I would be pushing for and trying to get evidence of that from in your medical records. JC says, judge wanted to approve, but without medical evidence from age 18 to 22, couldn't do so. Maybe he was incorrect. Agreed that currently no jobs available with my conditions, plenty of adult records available, but none for 22. Yeah, and that is a constant, that is a very frequent problem. Parents don't keep them. Hopefully they're learning now. Now that there's so much more information because of the internet, I mean, it's got a lot of sins, but it's got a lot of positives if you grab the positives. And that's the ability to look things up, you know, do research, all that kind of stuff. When approved 30 years ago, it was by listing meaning a listing. Old providers from childhood retired in hospitals no longer have those paper records, and you didn't keep yours. I understand. Tried to do federal appeals, but didn't find attorney. So you did appeals counsel, and they didn't. I'm wondering if that law, was this a while ago or very recently, JC? Brittany. I was disabled before 22 years old, and now I am having more medical issues related to some of my disabilities and related to the side effects of my prescribed anxiety medications that eventually lead me to seeing a GI doctor who needs me to do something else. Endoscopy, okay. Endoscopy, am I saying that wrong? I've got a double. Both ends, guys. May 11th. Yep. Both ends. Simultaneously. Think I'll be knocked out like a drunken sailor. And no offense to sailors. I love sailors. My husband's Navy. Well, you know, and that's not abnormal, Brittany. Probably a lot of people are going to attest to the fact that as we age, different body part. I mean, disabled or not disabled, our bodies age and things deteriorate, right? I have GI issues now that I never had, you know, in my ripe old age. So it stands to reason that someone who's disabled is not going to escape the ramifications of time on their other body parts or, you know, organs, all that. Not fun. Don't like it, but it is the life in this fallen world we live in, right? King Robinson. Hi, King. I don't think we've met. I normally receive my SSI before the first. This month, it has not yet arrived. Oh, you mean for May? You expected it 2 days before May? Anyone else with this issue? Let's see. May 1st is Friday. Well, when you normally, you say normally, do you mean frequently, often, regularly, but not always, because if the first is going to fall on a weekend or a holiday, they're going to pay you before it because they do not want you to have to wait until after it. It is they realize that SSI people cannot be saving big amounts of money to buffer and get that rent paid on time. So they pay you before the first to make sure you have money for the first for your rent, because most SSI people are probably paying rent. Does that make sense? So just, I wouldn't be worried at this juncture anyway. It's only the 29th. It's not even the day before. So I would expect you to receive it Friday, actually, because Friday is not a holiday, right? And it's a weekday. So they should be paying it to you on the first. Of course, it would be nice if it was the last day of the month anyway, so that you can comfortably have it in your hand. Although I think when they pay it, does it come out? King, let me know. Does it normally come out at like 12:01 a.m.? Is it like, or is it like midday? Because what if you wanted to pay your rent at 10 in the morning and you've got to wait till 3 until it pops in there? I'm curious. That's just a little detail that just popped in my head that I'd be curious about. Okay. Oh, Brittany, I see you're saying you don't have SSDI. Do you have a recent work record? Because you need a recent work record to get SSDI. Oh, DAC. You're on SSI then, right, Brittany? Oh my goodness. Elliot, I'm not skipping you, but I just gotta, I'm scrolling down to catch all of what Brittany has to say. On April 4th, 2026, your father passed away from a multi-car wreck. Brittany, I'm so sorry. Your mind's got to be spinning. I don't know if you were here before when Elliot and I were talking about grief counselors and such. And you're disabled to boot with all these medical problems. But yeah, I mean, if you are on SSI, and I hope that rule about, proving back to 22, I forget what you said about the age. Okay, so you were on SSI from before 22 years. So you've been listening to JC's story, right? You have the medical records from way back when? Multi-car wreck. I'm so sorry, my dear. Hugs and fingers crossed and thoughts of strength and peace and getting through to you. I'm so sorry. I hope your mom is sufficiently strong to get through this. I know what that's like to lose someone suddenly like that to a vehicular. It's you're probably still in shock, actually. I'm really sorry. I think I'm gonna cry. I'm really sorry, my dear. But yeah, you want to do that. You want to definitely pursue DAC. All right, Christina. Aw, super sweet, Christina. Thank you. Please don't forget to like, share, your comment, and subscribe. Thank you very much. And then she also says, please share the live stream. That's not a bad idea. Thank you. Christina is always helpful. A+ for the channel. Okay, so the county school system, this is Brittany, made me come and get my records in the past before they destroyed them. Awesome. So you have those. Still have my past autism diagnosis before 22 years old, just in case. Yeah. I mean, that'll help. I really want to see what that new law was about the collateral estoppel business. I'm going to look into that. JC, it burns me up what happened to you. I don't want to see the same thing happen to Brittany either. See, this is not like an occasional thing. It's a lot of childhood disabilities, and it's not, it makes no common sense. That's the problem. It doesn't make common sense. I'm not talking about feelings and want to give somebody money. No, because I know money doesn't grow on trees. But this does not make common sense that what happened to JC could happen. Hey, S. Lewis Grande's in the house. Long time no see, buddy. Does irregular posting of feet pics, OnlyFans, count as SGA? Yeah, probably. Well, I don't know if it would be SGA because I'm not. I don't know if it's substantial activity, even if it's gainful, necessarily. If income is mostly passive residuals from old content, that is a question of first impression, since I've never heard of someone posting their feet fetish pictures. S. Lewis on OnlyFans. Oh my gosh, that's got to be crazy. I've never been to that website, but I've heard that. No regular modeling occur. Oh, are they pretty feet? That's a little different. No regular modeling occurs, but sales happen monthly. Does SSA see this as work? I would like to think no, but if it starts to, and this is, I'm saying this just as an impression, S. Lewis, not as a, you can't really predict necessarily. Let's look at a model who is physically disabled undeniably and would win SSDI and maybe has SSDI, but was a model. Stunning. Clearly not. But you know what I'm saying? And they're willing to, they could sit for a half hour and let a photographer take their picture and they can totally sell it for tons of money. What if it's even used with permission, of course, with AI and then makes a lot of money? Is she now working SGA, or is that just monetizing a piece of, I hate to say capital, but it is capital in a way? I'd like to think the latter, but if you are posting them, that could be, that's activity, and it shows a skill that could be used in work. Could you do it 8 hours a day? Obviously not. Will the money be SGA? I honestly don't know the answer. And if anyone is asked about this kind of thing elsewhere with other attorneys that are, you know, answering questions, Walter or Jonathan or whoever, I would be really curious. They might all say, no. I think tread cautiously, regardless, because we can all say no, but none of us have actually seen it in action. And I don't know. I still lean towards it would be okay as long as your activity in doing it is no more than a couple hours a month, you know, very low hours a month. But I don't know. Let me give you a for instance. What if I'm a lawyer, brilliant, in a wheelchair, quadriplegic, clearly disabled, on SSD, but my brain, my legal brain, is so stellar. In 1 hour a month, I can earn $10,000 because I can see issues other lawyers can't, and I can evaluate their case in record time, and boom, give them a avenue that they didn't think of, and it's definitely worth $10,000 because the case is worth $100,000 or $500,000 or whatever. I make $10,000 a month with that 1 hour of work. That's SGA. I think that would be SGA. Because it would, well, it would be TWP. It is SGA. I don't know. It's racking my brain right now. But think about it. Should that person who can work and make $10,000 a month, he's able to make substantial gainful activity and he's doing it, regardless of his disabilities. So I think it would be a problem. Are you going over SGA with that foot fetish thing? I'm saying that to be funny, by the way, foot fetish. I'm just amazed. I think feet are like really ugly. Just generally. Most ears, too. Not all ears, but most ears. I want to go back to that 1 second. I'm sorry, guys. S. Lewis. Another thought. You say no regular modeling, of course, but sales happen monthly. That means you're reselling the pick. So the pick is an asset. It's just being sold. When you do your taxes, do not put it under wages. Put it under sale of goods. Talk to your accountant. Talk to other SSD lawyers. There's not many that do this kind of questions about this kind of stuff because we're more of the medical people. But I just happen to dabble in it because 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I was doing it. I was answering questions like this anyway that were outside of what my clients need. But that's another avenue to take. If it's not work activity, then don't do a Schedule C, and you'd have to put it under cost of goods sold. And then they're going to want to know how much activity you're doing, and you're going to say 1 hour a month at best, making sure my bank account is right. As I sell, I'm the owner of this company that then sells this business. Better yet, you have someone else doing that managing for you. A spouse. A spouse checks the bank account, make sure everything's paid, that kind of thing. You own the business. You're not actually working it. Even if someone snaps pictures of your little piggies every so often. Okay, and here we go. Same, kind of like a different workaround with the question. I appreciate this, S. Lewis. If one earns money from past digital content, pictures, sold online without active modeling or regular work, does that count as SGA for SSDI? Again, if it's not work activity, why would you do not put it under wages? It would be under business income, but there's cost of goods sold. That's the revenue from I don't do cost of goods sold, so my kids and I did Amazon way long ago, and I was trying to show them how they could be little entrepreneurs. But the asset minus the cost of getting the asset, that would include, and all your business, and all the business expenses like the internet costs and all, you have your revenue the revenue that comes in is the sale of a product. It's not from work activity. It's not wages. It's not services. Look at it in that vein and just do your due diligence. But that is the way I would absolutely be going, probably. And I'm not an accountant or a tax professional, so I can't go any further. But the way you identify it on your taxes is going, because if you put it under wages, self-employment, and then you are going to be paying Social Security taxes on that, which is only supposed to be on work activity, not on selling capital, selling products, that kind of thing. So if it's non-work related, flesh it out more. I'm not going to know the proper words under the IRS and the acceptable accounting principles, but maybe look at it in that way. And of course, even if it were a regular, helps. I hope I touched on that enough, St. Louis. It's kind of, it's not my pay grade, but those are the thoughts that I have, because it does come up sometimes with consults in particular, and we touch on things. Christina says, now Attorney Joy calls you and texts you on Sunday, Saturday, any day, any time. Oh, you're not supposed to tell people that, Christina. Then they're going to have high expectations. Yeah, you know me. You know me, Christina. Weekends are some of my best times. It's a good catch-up time, too. Because you can't be on the phone with SSA on a weekend, so they're not calling, there's none of that. Although, of course, we can upload to them, so sometimes I'm doing that, so. It is nuts. I love it, though. Good for us if she's our attorney, which she's mine. Ah, Christina. Okay. Dick says, it's kind of a technicality because the imaging, are you talking about the digital stuff? The imaging is what they consider proof, but not the exact symptom. Oh, I'm not sure what you're talking about. Did I miss something? I'm sorry if I missed something. Maybe I passed you when I was trying to catch up with Brittany. Let me just double check. I don't want to leave it hanging, Dick. No, I don't see it. So I don't know who you're talking to, what you're referring to. I was going to say, it's like if your arm was clearly broken, flopping around, and they said, not until we see the x-ray is it really broken. Right. I don't know what you're referring to, but I hear you. That's right. Got Daroot is in the house. I don't think we've met Got Daroot. How would age play a factor at 50 versus 55 for physical disabling impairments? I'll tell you exactly how it differs. At 50, you have an easier burden than 49, but not as easy as 50. At 55. At 50, you don't have to prove that all 12,000 jobs you can't do specifically. Because they will say, listen, Got, if you are 50 and you can't do light, medium, or heavy work, the only work we find you can do is sedentary. That's sit down 6 hours a day, lifting no more than 10 pounds, or less than that. So your exertional is restricted to sedentary or less. We find that medically through your medical records. And any prior relevant work you have, which is the work in the last relevant 5 years, so make sure you know what your period is. If any work is there, then we have to find that you can't do that prior job, because obviously if you can do that prior job, you're not eligible for SSD because you can go do that prior job. And so that's the second one, can't do your prior job. And the third one is, if that was not an unskilled job that you had in the last 5 years, and it was semi-skilled or higher skilled than that, and if those skills are transferable to a job in that sedentary thing we found you could do, but you can't do higher, you have to prove that they are not transferable to a job that you could be placed into, not by us, but, that you could find that's sedentary. As long as you could, if those jobs will transfer to that job, we'll find that you are not disabled. So you have to prove that there is no transferable skills. And that could be if you have no prior relevant work at all because you haven't worked in 5 years. Or that the job you had no transferable skills to begin with. And that's all a bunch of stuff you're going to want to research. Or if there are transferable skills because you had a semi-skilled or skilled job, that because of the nature of those skills, they're not transferable, or you as an impaired person cannot transfer them. You can't use them. It could be your memory shot. You don't remember those steps you did with the processes. It could be that it was very fast-paced thinking, and that those skills are always used in a kind of fast-paced thinking thing, and you can't do that. It could be the memory, the ability to apply them because of anxiety and reduced concentration. This is what we were alluding to above about the mental health stuff. I have a recent video out. It pertains to, I think it's on this. Well, there was one that was about 55, but same idea. Literally in the last week, I think it came out. When I urge people over 50 to, if they have skilled or semi-skilled work, I'm like, we have to show that you can't transfer those skills. At first, I analyze to see if there are transferable skills in there, which is not an easy thing to do sometimes. Oftentimes, it's difficult because there's not like a big flat-out book about it, but sometimes you can do it. And some of them I know are not transferable, and then some I know are. So then we have to say, well, then, you've been telling me about how your pain makes you very distracted. You can't focus. You forget why you went into a room. You can't even remember a recipe, the first 3 steps. And I say, then you're going to want to get proof of that. And mental health counseling is really the way you're going to do that. Because you don't have to prove that you're severely mentally ill. You only have to prove that you're, from medical records, that your ability to focus, concentrate, do all those, because that will affect your mental capacity to do mental skills and to transfer skills that you learn there. You have to learn them, absorb them, and be able to use them. So that is where you're at. So the difference between you and a 55-year-old is going to be that exertional level. The first one. Remember the 3 prongs. Exertional level, sedentary less. For 55-year-olds, they, even if they can do light work, if they can beat the other 2 prongs, they can prevail. You at 50 or someone at 50, 54, have to prove that they can't do light. That's really hard. Believe it or not, they want to say everybody can do a sit down job, physically sit down. So you want to, that person is going to want to hone in. Certainly, well, you don't have to prove you can't do sedentary. You have to prove you can't do light. You have to prove you can't be on your feet 6 to 8 hours, or you can't lift over 10 pounds due to musculoskeletal reasons. So, right. I say musculoskeletal. There are other reasons. There could be weakness that's not musculoskeletal, but I say that generally because that's the usual way it's done. Because we have so much musculoskeletal impairments that reduce strength, ability to lift, and all that stuff. So, hope that helped you. S. Lewis says, Stephanie, I agree. There was a person who was on SSDI in a very large part due to documentation of what they did and said to their leaders. I don't understand what that means. Granted, it took SSA multiple appeals to finally grant it. Who are their leaders? What does that mean? I don't really understand what that means. Multiple appeals. Well, the multiple appeals was probably not based on the fact that they were doing their feet, right? The pictures. Is that what we're talking about still? It was probably due to the medical, the medical, like the lower levels do not have the same discretion and intuition, shall we say, or the power to use their intuition that the ALJs have. And I feel like sometimes the adjudicator would like to, and they can't. It's not really, I think, designed for that on purpose. Hakasad is in the house. Hi, Hakasad. For SSDI, how taxes paid for retroactive payments, past due payments, and ongoing payments. Okay, so your SSDI, your retroactive is going to be one big, massive, full payment. And then that is your past due payments. So retro is your past due payments. And then ongoing payments will be monthly, usually on a Wednesday, depending on what day in the month your birthday falls on. So it's going to be first, second, third, or fourth Wednesday. And yeah, that's how they work. You have direct deposit. That's ideal. Hakasad says, I'm at the ALJ stage. My most recent conversation, by the way, guys, we're 2 minutes away from 3. My most recent conversation with OHO, that would be OHO. I think they just changed the name again. The rep advised me that my case was submitted to a judge for an OTR decision. Okay, so they asked for an OTR. What does that mean? On the record review. So the rep, I assume he did a little brief explaining why he thought it didn't need a hearing and the judge could make a favorable decision on your records alone. Everything in your file, including your function report, work history report. All the answers are in there that clearly spell disabled. No need to ask you additional questions at a hearing. OTRs are not common, but they do happen. We love them. Sometimes we get them when we don't even ask for them because the judge's office will often pre-review things to see if they can, get someone awarded before they have to go all the way to hearing. Sometimes they do it early on. Sometimes they do it the week before the hearing. Sometimes I'll get a call the night before the hearing. The judge is given an OTR. I'm like, after I spent like 25 hours on a brief, but I'll take it. JC says, my DAC denial journey was 5 years ago. Okay. Oh. Not sure if I should retry. Oh my gosh, 5 years ago. It's got to be such a, I don't know if it's going to be possible. It doesn't hurt to try, but there are rules about the time frame in which to try to overturn ALJ decisions, you know? I don't know that it will be risking your current SSI, but this really breaks my heart because it's just not right, fair, or common sense. I think if I find anything, JC, I'm going to send it to you or make a video and just try to keep an eye out. I usually try to make the titles descriptive. Not so easy when I'm doing this section of like when the replays of this kind of stuff is broken out. Then there's multiple questions and, you know, and it's not like, but when I do a standalone, that would be a standalone. So I'll make sure the title is clear so you can maybe hopefully find it without having to screw around too much. Canova Henry's in the house. Hi, Canova. Nice to see you again. The hearing office is reviewing the information in your case and collecting evidence to complete your file. Yeah. What is the next step after this? Well, first of all, the obligation is also on you, Canova, that you make sure you get evidence into the hearing office. You know, they are collecting evidence. It doesn't mean they're collecting your medical evidence. They might be doing HITMER, HITMER. They might not be. And some of your doctors might not have arrangements with the SSA for HITMER access. So if I were you, I would be on top of whatever's in the file. Hopefully you have an attorney who's checking, right? Or a non-attorney rep. And you need to know. It's your obligation to present your evidence. So do not be relying on the hearing office staff to be doing your job for you. All right. I'm just giving you a forewarning because then all of your evidence is probably not going to be in there. And that will be to your detriment, and it'll be considered, it's not, you know, it's not somebody else's fault. Canova says, I was waiting for the ALJ judge to set up my onset date hearing. Onset date hearing? But this morning it's changed from the ALJ to hearing officers reviewing it. I'm confused what is going on. Oh, don't be confused. Who knows? Maybe that judge left and it's going to go to a different judge. You know, maybe they're checking it for an OTR. That would be awesome, right? That could be what it is. Yeah. Yeah. Or I don't know what you guys see in terms of where it's at. Like you say it's changed from the ALJ to hearing office. So what you'd go onto your SSA.gov, I would say, with an ALJ, and then like that was a status, or I don't know what you guys see in the current, you know, right now. We have another JC with big JC letters. Did the recent workforce reductions impact most of the area work incentive coordinator? I have no idea. Positions and or work incentive liaison. I would have no idea. That would be such a minute part that doesn't really have anything to do with what we generally do. So I really would be able to tell you. Work incentive liaison, you mean when they're trying to get you off SSD, did they cut back on those people too? I don't know. Some people would say, I hope so, right? I don't know. I honestly don't know, JC. I'm sorry. Hakkasad says, how is the ALJ supposed to treat the situation when medical files fall into medical retention 10-year policy and it doesn't exist because it's been 10 years? Nothing. The burden is on you to present the evidence. So if you failed to get your evidence or maintain it or keep a copy of it, and then 10 years go by and you're expecting someone else to, store your stuff for you forever. Honestly, that's going to be on you. Your job is to you have the burden of proof of your case. The judge has no obligation, and not only that, he would be overturned to say he doesn't have any evidence, but he says he was disabled 10 years ago, despite no evidence, and he says he doesn't have evidence because the people that held it lost it. So I'm just going to take his word for it, not only that there was evidence, but that it was severe enough to show that he was disabled at that time. I mean, honestly, you got to know that that's not realistic, and it shouldn't be. And I know that's frustrating. The problem is the medical profession and the fact that we all, myself included, we're not educated to take care of our paperwork, to retain important things like medical records. We didn't. We just all are immortal and we go about. We never do, and we don't think we're going to get disabled. That's nobody's fault but society and our own. Some people do keep all their medical records, so some people never have this problem. So we know it's not everybody, but it's probably most of us. And I think in this day and age, there's probably no excuse. I can't really say for sure 10 years ago, because again, when we're healthy, we don't think about this at all. We never expect it. I mean, now I do because I've been eating, breathing, and sleeping it for I'm going to my third decade. But so the judge is not supposed to treat it. He's supposed to say, "Oh, no evidence. I can't award him as much as I see he's disabled today. There's not, and maybe it's good evidence today. But if we have to prove that it was from before, he's got nothing to prove it. He just wants everyone to believe him, and he's not even a medical expert. So how can we believe him? He's not even a medical expert himself. He's just a person, meaning you. So unfortunately, that's just reality. That's like gravity. It's no one's good, no one's bad. It just is what it is. It's gravity. You guys know what I mean when I say that? It's gravity. Gravity's not good. It's not bad. It'll hurt you if you don't, take care of yourself with it. But it's just a reality, natural reality. Hucka said, I think if the income is residual from pre-ad, it's fine, same as back pay. I have no idea what that means. Sorry. Hey, Thankful Days Ahead is in the house. Hi, bud. Thankful Days Ahead. Hey, you back. Thank you for the message. You're welcome. Is it true military 100% P&T will perhaps be moved up during SSDI application review? I don't know about the review process in terms of CDRs and stuff, but they are prioritized. Do I see that making a big effect? Not so much, but technically they are in the front of the people that are not prioritized. So they're going to be, when they are put in a priority, they're at the back of the line probably of that priority line, but they are before all the other people that filed the same day. And maybe even after it, or before. Does that make sense? It's priority. Our beloved 100% P&T guys and gals. Oh, Hakkasad, you're talking about the feet thing. But regarding the feet thing, it depends if it's SSDI. Oh, of course. Now, I think they were talking about SSDI, so we'll make sure that we're clear on that. SSI, any income you get from selling something to investment accounts to anything, income and or resources is going to be considered with SSI and whether it fits into the accountability. So yes, SSI, you can't do any of that. Period. Full stop. None. I mean, you can do a little bit of, you can earn a little income, but it's going to, if it's unearned income, which, by the way, that would probably be if it's going to be a sale of owner's equity in a company that sells goods, small business, but you're not doing the work. That would probably be unearned income. And that's going to be dollar for dollar offset if it's taken in that vein. If it's earned income because it's wages, then only $1 for every $2 you earn, so that the benefit of working is still felt. John Gongon says the bird is the best view. Oh, really? I think I know what you're saying. She's sleeping, by the way. Look at her. Isn't she adorable? Adorbs. I just brought her in right before we started because she was really being loud. I could tell she was like, I haven't had her out. I mean, I've had her out, but like she was in here for maybe 2 hours yesterday when normally sometimes it's like all day. S. Lewis says, it's hypothetical. I'm not selling feet pics. Yet, not yet anyway. You're so funny. You could do nostril pics. I have like a fetish for noses. I notice. It's not like a fetish. My family laughs at me. I always notice noses. I'm really good facial detail. So like I could see someone once, as long as I have a good look at them and have a reason to memorize their face, like we have a conversation and then 20 years later, it's happened to me once where I saw a person 20 years later in a dark movie theater. I saw their profile and I said, oh my God, that's that guy from blah, blah, blah. From when we were teenagers at a party. Not kidding. So not kidding. Really, really good with the faces. The names, not so much. Not the worst person with the names, but it's the faces. For some reason, my eyes and my memory just kind of, and it's funny because my husband is not good at it at all. And I'll laugh at him. Like, it'll be so funny. I'll be like, oh my God, do you think that's so-and-so? And he's like, I have no idea. I go, I think it is. Oh, you can't be right. I'm like, I think it is. I think that's blah, blah, blah. Someone we haven't seen him yet. And then I'll find out I'm right. Invariably, like 99% of the time. So that's not invariably, but very high percentage. Selling feet, nose, nostrils, ear holes and shapes. You could do a lot of weird fetishes. I bet. Not trying to give people business ideas. There are a lot of weird people out there that will, they say, will have these fetishes, and that all you need is like 100,000 of them out of probably the millions to go to your site and boom. Just saying. Maybe I'll do that for retirement purposes. Sorry. I'm being funny here, guys, but I do mean it actually. Hakasad says, hey, they are going to receive a separate income reporting form. It depends, right? Or it could be a K. They're going to have to show that someone else is, So if they read the 1099 is going to be tough. That's income to the business, but it should not. The 1099s. I got to look at mine. The 1099s have. It might also be sale. I'm not sure. I'd have to take a look at it. Mine is always non-employee compensation. That's how the SSA does ours. But, that also could be a payment processor thing. Not like, like you sell something on your website and you use PayPal. You have a PayPal button. PayPal is going to give you, if it's over a certain amount, the amount. That doesn't mean you earned it from work activity at all. It could be selling goods. So, there's a lot to it. I agree. And I'm not, you might be more of maybe you're a tax professional and I'm not. I have that whole little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. I just kind of know when you got to go check. Check that, can't give you the answer, but I know it's an issue or a potential issue. Oh, the age 55 video was member only. Yeah, they all start out that way. Thankful, actually, the members, because I won't put out on purpose more than one video a day of the pre-recorded, so as not to be overly annoying. And so when I do them, we click on the members can see it, and then it has a date where it will be in the queue for going out on the rest. So if it's still members only, that just means, I'll have to double check, but that just means it hasn't been queued for, it's waiting in line, you know? So that could be. It will eventually be, for sure, public, not just members. Hey, 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 we got Hall Jr. in the house. Hi, Hall. Is that Hall? How hard is it for a child with autism and on SSI to transition to adult SSI? I don't have stats on that, but it's something you definitely want to take seriously because the definition is different for adults. And they have to prove that they can't do all 12,000 jobs, which the child didn't have to prove. He had to prove something different. So I would be sure to be getting, I would probably be doing something like current vocational capacity assessment by an autism specialist who will be able to, I mean, it's going to have to be really significant autism, right? Where it's functionally really, really out of bounds. So I would be working on that now, you know, and then like right really close in time to the age 18. And then as you've been probably listening, if you've been here, Hall, keep every single school record, every single medical thing from the time that kid was born. Just keep it in a safe place, digitally, backups, you know. And because if he goes to SSI adult and he remains disabled from working full time and never, you know, loses it due to SGA or anything, he will eventually be eligible for DAC when you or mom or dad, you know, whoever's a parent, become eligible for benefits or pass away. But as you might have heard in here, we've got people don't have those records. And now, even though they've been on SSI the whole time, and common sense would say, I mean, more than common sense, reality said, the SSA said you're still disabled all those years. If they don't have the records, they're shutting them down. At least they were 5 years ago, right? JC? Shep Dad is in the house. 52-year-old, 23 days post-op L5S1. Received letter from SSDI saying decision after follow-up doctor appointment 420. Okay, that's interesting. They usually don't send a letter saying that, but okay. Fingers crossed for you, Shep. Oh, managers. Managers of what? They have a manager, or like a foot modeling manager? Is that what we're talking about? Brittany Daniels. Yes, because I had to go and get them from the school system. Okay, I'm not sure what I was asking. That was in reference to what you earlier said about not being able to deal with supervisors. Yeah, well, it'd be great if there's. This is where, and I know I have a recent video on this. I don't know if it's out yet. I think it's from a live stream actually, but the value of there's friend letters, which I think hold far less value, but are not valueless per se, as a rule. Coworker, prior supervisor letters. A lot of times they won't do it. You won't have someone that will do it. But if you can get one that says he would blow up at my, you know, on any given day when I needed to give him his duties, he would be argumentative. He would be reactionary. He would be getting red in the face. I could see him sweating profusely. You know what I mean? Like there is things that could be done if someone will actually do them. You know, and if he's already had, and that would be a history of having problems interacting with supervisors reliably at any given time. Because if you think about it, when the supervisor wants to talk to you, you're the subordinate. You got to be there and able to do it. So that would be so useful. I just don't know if a supervisor that somebody acted badly in front of might not be that compassionate. See, I would be totally different. I'd be willing to say it if they wanted me to. Like, just because you couldn't work together doesn't mean you can't share the honest details to help this person. You know, in what is just reality, like getting the evidence of reality takes what, 5 minutes? Do a letter? I don't know. Okay. So Brittany, yeah, you got to get all that stuff. I forget how old you said you were. You got to go prove all that stuff back to 22. I don't know if you're over 22. Did you say? All right. Where are we at, guys? It is 3:20, by the way. We always seem to go over 2 hours. Dick says, I was talking about something you were talking about earlier. Okay. I know, if you don't kind of specify in the beginning, it's kind of hard to make it all connect. Okay. Oh, user's in the house. Hi, user. Nice to see you again. Should I tell my doctor I'm applying for disability? I have videos on exactly why I don't think you should. Largely because you don't know if he's supportive or not. And if he happens to be biased, or, you know, the medical assistant's going to know, and the office manager is going to know. Office managers often find out anyway because of the medical records request, and that's fine. But I've seen people tell their provider, and then I see less than helpful things added. He's here because he's looking for disability. Yeah. I've seen that. That's not like a one-time thing. I've seen that. So sometimes it'll be like a snarky medical assistant that's, you know, the one that's recording the records. And sometimes it's the doctor. So I'm a cautious person. There's no reason to tell them necessarily if they do records and treatment competently. Granted, the records often it's incompetent, but if they say to you or have said to you while you were working, you've got to stop working. This is going to kill you. They might be more prone to be like, yeah, of course you're going to have to file for disability. That's going to pay effort. And then maybe. But if they don't say that and they're not that kind of person, I just think it's a risk. But you got to feel it out with your judgment and your intuition at the time and your gut feeling, I suppose. But I wouldn't just do it ad hoc because you think everyone's going to be sympathetic. Because I assure you, not everyone's going to be sympathetic. Some are going to be disdainful. Some are going to say, God, I got a bad back like she does. And I'm still here working. You know, who does she think she is? And people are lazy. And like, there is a lot of bias. It's ugly. And you just want to maybe have some idea of whether that is not in that office and not with that particular individual. Shep Dad says, my PCD, do you mean a primary care doctor, wrote me a letter for SSDI. Could you look at it? You could ask for a prepaid consultation, Shep Dad, but I can't. That would probably be an hour. You could do an hour if you wanted. And what I would probably do, that would be a consult. And then what I'd probably do is want to phone or Zoom with you, because after, probably before, or maybe Liz would ask you a couple questions, because so much of how that letter will be harmful, or helpful, is your vocational profile as well. So that would be imperative too. So you could, if you want, you can go to the website. Up in the upper right is a link for prepaid consultation. I know that costs, but otherwise, all I would be doing is free consultations, and then I wouldn't be able to be here, and I wouldn't be able to represent my clients. So, and then I wouldn't be able to pay my bills. So that's where it gets a little like that. God, keep the doors open. Gregory Petty says, hi, Gregory, again. My mom got my IEP records from the Lowndes County school system here in Georgia. Some of them says those my IQ report from my psychologist. We also told the SSA at the time on my application that I was born premature at Shands Hospital in Gainesville, Florida, back in 1988. Then 5-6 months later, I was approved for SSDI in 2020. Yeah. Oh, so you're approved for SSDI. So you don't have a pending claim, right, Gregory? I forget what your backdrop sitch is. 2020, so you were approved. So you were able to work a little bit. So you're not totally not able to work, right? 88 to 2020. Wow. Huh. So something more must have happened to you. You were able to work, and then well, maybe you were just under SGA the whole time because you're still going to get an SSDI benefit. Kubi Dreams, how are you, Kubi? You're late to the game, my friend. Thankful Day says, thank you. You are welcome. Dimple's back. Oh, Dimple, you're so awesome. User goes on to say, I haven't had substantial income since 2011 due to disability. My DLI was 2017. Oh, that's painful. So you didn't even have insubstantial income in which to push out your DLI. That is my greatest wish for everybody, to be able to make sure the DLI is ahead of them and not behind them. User goes on to say, I had some self-employment income in 21-22 that I haven't filed taxes on. Okay, that's a problem for other reasons. I wouldn't be saying that out here, user. Maybe I'll delete that. Just in case. Okay. Taxes, that's another agency that you're going to want to deal with. I told SSA about it when I applied 2 years ago. Ideas? Yeah. If you can get your DLI back, that would be the best bet. I don't recall. I know you have a lot of issues. I don't recall if you were denied or not, user. I'm going to delete this just because I don't like it. I just want to protect people if they say something that goodness knows, who knows, you know? But your DLI is really in the past. If you have never applied before, I forget, are you still applying? That means you have one bite of the apple and only one bite of the apple. And anything you do now medically, while you need to do it, or else you can't win. Yeah, you first have to prove also that it started of a disabling severity back before 2017, and that's really hard. All right, I'm just going to pop that one question out, okay? Don't take personal offense, user. It's just to protect you, just because I'm overly cautious for your benefit. Ooh. Hakasad is giving us a POMS, guys. Write this down. I'm going to write it down. POMS DI 22505.001 and POMS DI 22505.006 and POMS DI 22510.015. I'll do something on those, Hakasad. We could do a video on that. 22505.001, 006, 22510.015. All right. That sounds good. Yeah, it's probably not going to be interpreted as favorably as we would like, I have a feeling. Only because I've seen this before. All right, so that's it. POMS. You stop barking at the window. I'll feed you when I'm done. They're very demanding. The dogs. Okay, Thankful saying it's a 1099K, probably for cost of goods sold, right? Through is that the processor though? They would, like the PayPal would give you that? I think that's what you're saying, right? Simple says, I used to have a card similar to a business card. It had 4 different nose shapes and said, pick one and flip card over. The back said, now that you've picked your nose, what are you going to do with it? Yeah, that's so funny. You know, my dad always tells this story. This is just funny, guys. Where he was driving. My dad's been passed away for over 20 years. So when I was a kid, he would tell the story. He and Uncle Jim, who was a very close family friend, we used to call him Philadelphia Jim because he lived in the Philly area. And we were close family friends. Their kids were a little bit older than us kids, but my dad and this guy were like this. Old friends from way before my dad was married to my mom. And he says they were driving, and my dad's driving. Jim is in the side seat, passenger seat, and he's going like this, and he's looking at something. And my dad's driving, and he looks over and goes, "What do you got over there?" And he goes, "I don't know." And he hands it to my dad, and so my dad is going like this, and my dad's telling the story, and my dad's going, "Huh? Well, where'd you get it?" And Uncle Jim goes, out of my nose. And my dad said he was almost crashing car. I'm like, like through, because it was obviously like a booger, but or he pretended it was a booger, or it was, I don't know. So the joke was on my dad, and my dad tells me the story, and we kids would crack up laughing because everything boogers or farts, of course, was always completely the funniest thing ever. And sometimes it still is because I have kids, and my husband and I are both a little silly, so just crack me up. So just sharing that. Rest in peace, Dad. Paul says, kept all medical records and IEPs from school. Brilliant. Good for you. I'm very glad to hear that. User continues. How do I add things like emails to medical providers that aren't in the medical chart? Ooh. You fax them in. Get the barcode covered that the SSA will give you, the DDS, if you're at the DDS stage, or the OHO. Barcode, that's there should be a fax number. So when you do it with the barcode and you send it to the fax number, it's a scanner system, and it'll scan it right into your file. So it'll show communications. Yeah, for sure. Hey, Shub is in the house. Fashionably late, Shub. That's okay. As long as you come, that's awesome. Cindig says, watch your videos for a long time. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that, Sin. Thank you. LaRocho says, thank you, Stephanie, for all that you do. Thank you so much for being here and supporting this channel, LaRocho. It is much appreciated, everybody. The 12 p.m. recordeds are the biggest support, as are the members. And this is the part that just keeps me enjoying more these live streams, because it is really great to see you guys and to interact and stuff like that. If I haven't seen a doctor since 2017, most people won't take up my case, correct? This is correct. Unless you are perhaps wheelchair bound and can prove it otherwise, or bedridden. I don't think you're in a coma, so that's not going to work. But usually there's some indicator of that. User, you can pick your friends, you can pick your nose, but you can't pick your friend's nose. I know, and Uncle Jim did. Well, no, he didn't pick his friend's nose. He just gave his friend the booty. Oh my goodness. All right. We're coming to an end here, guys. Hi, I have my hearing first one following recon. Coming up on my birthday. When is it, DJ? Oh, pardon me. When is it? I won't hold you to it. Tell me now. You might not even be here. All right, guys. We are done. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. You are definitely supporting the channel and my sanity by coming to live stream. I'm very happy to share anything I know and let you know when I don't know. The 12 p.m. recordeds are really, really helpful. And I will say, I just yesterday agreed to take on a 1%, 5%er. So, young person. So there is that. We are really pouring them in, relatively, of course, because everything's got to be capped because of there's only so much unpaid work you can do. But it's just the thing we try to do to give back. And I just think we can. And this is what makes it actually more possible to take more. I always took a small amount, and it's not a large amount still, but it's, like I said, I think we're at like 2 to 3 times more than what we were doing even 2 years ago. And it's because of this channel. So I appreciate that. Those folks appreciate it too. Anyway, so I'm going to end the live stream, guys. Have a great one. Hope to see you at the 12 p.m.s. This will come out in pieces later if you want to catch a replay, and it will have descriptors of the different, different categories of questions, like a little tag for talking about this, or so you can, just pick and choose to some degree if it strikes your fancy. All right. Something else you want to know about. I will talk to you later. Thanks again, guys. Have a great week and be safe.